Hey guys, what's up, back to the video. So She-Hulk is over, which means we officially have 8 Marvel Disney Plus TV shows. So in this video, I'm going to be ranking them all. Now, this will not be including Werewolf by Night, as that is a special presentation. And before we get to my ranking, let me know your ranking of all 8 shows in the comments down below. And also hit the subscribe notification so you don't miss any time of the video or go live. But don't waste any more time, let's get into it. So starting it off, in 8th place is going to be What If. I think there was a lot of potential with this show, and they just didn't get near to what they could have actually done. But I will say the Doctor Strange episode is one of my favorite episodes of Disney Plus television ever made. It is such a great episode, probably one of the most unique things on Disney Plus. I absolutely love that episode so much, but the show as a whole isn't really that entertaining to me. I'm excited for season 2 just because they do have a lot of different concepts, and this did get me very excited for the Marvel Zombies show, which is going to be TVMA, which would be very exciting. But as a whole, What If itself is just not that great. But moving on, in 7th place is going to be Hawkeye. I do think this show was really good for a while. Episodes 3, 4, and 5 were an absolutely insane streak of basically phenomenal episodes, but the first 2 episodes are just all right, and the finale is absolutely atrocious in my opinion. It follows the basic MCU path, and it's honestly one of the most and biggest examples of just building up your villain over time and you having a secret villain at the end that doesn't really do anything for you. I even think shows like Moon Knight and honestly even Falcon and Winter Soldier do a good job of just building the villain up, and it's still being entertaining at the end of the day. Hawkeye doesn't really do that. Kingpin is so underutilized here. They wait to reveal him till the very end, and overall it just feels like a massive waste of time. But in 6th place for me is going to be the Falcon and the Winter Soldier. There is a little caveat here though, because I did rewatch WandaVision and Loki before Multiverse of Madness, so I got to revisit those shows and see how they aged. But Falcon and Winter Soldier I have never rewatched ever, and so I really want to check that one out again. I definitely do think it'll move up in my rankings, but for now, again, it is in 6th place. I think overall it is a very solid series. I think 6 and up honestly aren't bad shows at all, which I do think I could go back and rewatch from time to time. I just really like the action Falcon and Winter Soldier specifically. I like how it is brutal to an extent. I love a lot of the different characters, but again, it suffers from the finale just being one of the weaker aspects of the show. But moving on, in 5th place for me is going to be Moon Knight. Now, this is arguably the biggest bag fumbling show of all time. They literally cut away the main action sequence from the finale, which is one of the stupidest decisions made in honestly even MCU history, I could say. It is such a big fumble for a series that built up stuff really well, in my opinion. It really felt like we were getting answers, and it felt like there was a lot of different things happening. As the show was building up, everything was very entertaining. I was very invested in all the characters, all of this Egyptian lore, and I just really liked how it all built up. I love the afterlife stuff. Again, I loved a lot of different elements, but at the end of the day, it really just didn't capitalize on anything whatsoever. And it's frustrating because I like Mark Spector as a character. I like Steven. They are very entertaining characters. This dynamic, this performance by Oscar Isaac, which is arguably one of the best performances in all of Disney Plus, and honestly one of the better performances in MCU overall, is just wasted by this very lackluster script. Though episode 5 is one of the better episodes of MCU Disney Plus television, I do think the show overall just falls flat because of just the weak storytelling and script overall. Next up for me though is going to be Miss Marvel. I actually like this show a lot. I think this show is very good. There are a few episodes here and there that are kind of lackluster, but I don't think there's any episode in this show that I would call bad. Now, 3rd and 4th are very close to me, and I do think that 3rd might just be recency bias, but speaking on Miss Marvel a little bit more, I definitely think that it excels in the one area that a lot of other shows don't, and that is making us actually care for the individual characters. Maybe it's because they're all a lot younger. The main character is around my age, so that might be the reason, but I definitely feel like just the impact and the stakes and just my care for all of these individual characters is a lot higher than all of the other Marvel Disney Plus TV shows. Even though this isn't like world ending, it definitely has some obviously more cosmic stakes, and I think they do a great job of conveying that throughout the 6 episodes in this show. Now, the villain is definitely the weakest aspect here, but I can look over that because I care for Kamala's character a lot, and just the way that they build her up and her relationship, her family, just the trust around Kamala herself throughout the entire show. What is built up very well, so I can forgive a few of these villain things. And also, I really like the finale of this show. I think that honestly the top 4, almost all of the finales are really great. I'd say one of the finales does fumble the bag a little bit, but the show overall is a lot better than the finale itself, so I cut it some slack. But again, Miss Marvel is an overall great show. I really do love it. I understand that people don't really like it, but personally, it's a show for me. I understand it's a little bit more on the kiddie side, but it's a fun and just, it's more of an adventurous show. It's more of a globe-trotting type of thing, and I really enjoy that. But next up in 3rd place is the newest Marvel Disney Plus TV show, She-Hulk Attorney at Law. I already made a full video on this, the season review. I have a bunch of episode reviews and stuff like that. So if you want to check that out, the link in the description down below. But overall, I love this show so much. There are 2-week episodes, but also remember, this has 9 episodes instead of just 6. But I think that this show, what it does so uniquely is just the format of it. It's 30-minute episodes every single week that are pretty much just character studies on Jennifer Walters. And then you have a small side story that builds up and gives you your overall story by the end of the show. And I think what they do is super unique with just the breaking of the fourth wall. It's literally breaking through freaking Disney Plus, which is crazy in that finale. But the way that they take these different elements and put it into this show is very unique and very interesting to me. Personally, I'm a really big fan of just how they culminated this show all together. And again, I think obviously, you know, the script is weak at some points in those individual like 2 to 3 episodes where they have those weaker side stories, like for example, the Asgardian elf going to court. Some of those things are kind of stupid, but at the same time, the super entertaining episodes are really, really good. For example, the finale, which is one of the better MCU Disney Plus TV shows, as well as the Daredevil episode, which is arguably the best episode of Disney Plus television. But yeah, She-Hulk Attorney at Law, I absolutely love the show. Honestly, I can't understand why people don't like it, because you might just not like the format of it and the way that they give us this story, which is totally understandable. But again, I really like She-Hulk. But moving on, in second place, my second favorite Marvel Disney Plus TV show is WandaVision. I feel like this one might be a hot take, because I feel like a lot of people started hating on WandaVision after it aged a little bit more. But WandaVision, I did a rewatch right before Multiverse of Madness, which again, it does give me a little bit of a refresher opinion on it, but I really still do like this show. I do believe though that the finale fumbled the bag very, very hard. I mean, I'm just saying Multiverse of Madness, it makes sense, but again, we're talking individually in the show, because if we're talking in connection to Multiverse of Madness, it might just be the best Disney Plus TV show because it leads in so well, at least character-wise for Wanda. I also really like the filmmaking behind this show. I do think that it's very unique, probably the most unique Marvel Disney Plus TV show, and honestly, Disney Plus TV show when it comes to just a distinct style, and also the fact that they shot this during like peak COVID is just more commendable to the show. But again, it has that big lackluster effect when it comes to just the story overall. It feels like it really built up to nothing in terms of just teasing us with small stuff, and it was definitely meta in that sense, and I understand that a lot more looking back on it. But still, I also enjoyed that week-to-week hype, but at the same time, it's like, it's a cool week-to-week hype, but it doesn't really give us much substance for the story. One thing I did realize about WandaVision upon rewatch is the horror and suspense elements of it, especially the Halloween episode. A lot of these things are just so unsettling because we don't really even know what's happening in the show. We don't know where it's going. We don't know what happened before. It literally starts so random and it ends so random. There is just so much stuff that happens in this show, but I really like it. I kind of mess with the fact that it's very just all over the place, and I enjoyed it. And this, along with all the other shows, again, it's like, I understand if you don't like it just because it might just not be your style. You might want to know everything in the story at once. That might just be how you like to watch your TV shows. But personally, I like when you can mix not telling us enough, but also keeping my attention and keeping me intrigued into everything. I like when you can balance both of those things, and I think WandaVision did it fairly well. But in first place is the show that I think balanced pretty much every single tone perfectly, and that is Loki. Loki is easily the best Marvel Disney Plus TV show in my opinion. Again, it does pretty much every single element perfectly. It even builds up to a secret villain and still somehow makes it very entertaining. Episode 6 is pretty much just a Jonathan Majors improv episode, and it's absolutely phenomenal. Loki has also definitely had like the biggest MCU impact. I mean, introducing pretty much what we know as the multiverse and just these different time branches and stuff like that, and also Kang the Conqueror being introduced. That is absolutely insane. I think what's interesting about Loki is that, yeah, when it comes to individual episodes, it might not be the strongest thing, especially like the Lamentus episode. There's smaller episodes here and there, but even those episodes that aren't as strong are still very character heavy. Like, for example, She-Hulk, there are episodes where the side stories aren't that great, right? But the character study is good as well. But in Loki, it's like the side story is okay, but the character study is like really, really good. Like, the character study is pretty much perfect on Loki, and just finding these differences and similarities between Loki and Sylvie, these two characters coming together and comparing against one another, they're literally variants of themselves that fall in love. It's such a rich and complex story about like just a coming into yourself type of story that I can't not be intrigued by it. I think the fact that this show is getting a season 2 says enough for itself. There's so much to explore in this world. Also, the TVA, which I somehow haven't even mentioned yet. The TVA is so perfect. This world that they've built, the way that they've literally created a level above the MCU itself is so cool to me. I don't know what it is about this show, but I'm absolutely in love with it. And I also think the score is phenomenal in this show as well. I think that elevates literally every other aspect of it. The score, along with the cinematography, pretty much every technical aspect of the show as well, is just stellar. And like I said, I rewatched WandaVision before Multiverse of Madness, but I also rewatched Loki, and I watched Loki and then WandaVision, but I still prefer Loki over all of them. And I mean, it's just a really good show. But guys, that's it for my ranking of all of the Marvel Disney Plus TV shows. Let me know your ranking in the comments down below. Thanks so much for watching. I'll see you next time. Peace.